Welcome to the Town of Eastham Water Management Committee meeting for the month of July. It's the 11th of July at 2 p.m. at Town Hall. And I'm calling the meeting to order. I would remind you that we are being videotaped and broadcast live. So for the record, we have a major duty coming up on the month of July.
Mr. Susan.
In that we need to go through the reorganizing the meeting, the structure, the chair and the clerk position. So I was going to suggest we do that first, and I guess the smart thing to do is to ask for a motion for a chair, a person to serve as the chair. And we will do that, and then we will go through, ask for a motion for a clerk, and do that.
There's one other possibility. Yes, the material that I sent you refers to a chair and a vice chair, that little excerpt from the policies and procedures.
Uh-huh.
And I guess we could consider whether or not we want to have a vice chair. Some committees do. Let's see what they say. Will elect a chair, clerk, and any other necessary offices such as the vice chair or co-chair and assistant clerk. The board encourages the rotation of the roles of chair and clerk. So this clerk is rotating.
Okay, yes, all right, we take your official notice.
I'm sorry, Mike.
Well, so I'm proposing that I ask for a motion for a person to be nominated to be chair.
I would start, I guess, with clerk, because I don't intend to keep the minutes of this meeting.
Oh, okay,
You should,
of course.
when I said I do not want to continue, I meant I do not want to continue.
Yeah.
Uh-huh, all right.
I've done it for close to 6 years.
All right, yes, you have, and very well. All right, then, so we will ask for a nomination on a,
Question?
yes.
My experience was with town governmental meetings, whether it was hospital board or planning commission, there was always a clerk provided by the city administration to do that role. I don't know what the policy here in Eastham is.
I think it depends on what the committee or board is. I think in certain towns, like the planning board or the zoning board of appeals,
They have a staff person.
they have a
Though,
staff
The
person.
staff person keeps the minutes, but I think they may still elect a clerk, like, so that the minutes are officially under the name of a clerk, even though it's a staff person who actually prepares them and presents them. But we don't have anyone who prepares the minutes for us.
The other committees in Eastham, they don't have a staff person do that?
Not, as Suzanne said, some of the regulatory committees, but the advisory committees do not. Like even the finance committee doesn't.
So no one wants to be the clerk? Is that what it is?
I don't think so.
So I know in other towns, the meetings, he's broadcasting it live, right? Sometimes clerks go back and re-watch the meeting, which might be potentially painful for you. But if you're intimidated by the thought of having to get everything and participate in the meeting, that's also
Yep.
an option.
I have on occasion,
Lisa Marble?
realizing that I might not, because of my own interaction, not fully follow writing down. I just make a little note in the margin of the time. Because when you, on our video on demand, you can skip through based on times.
Yep.
So I say like, you know, 56 minutes or something, and I just go to that portion of the tape rather than watch the whole thing again.
But you also do something useful, which is you often ask people to, you know, when you didn't catch what they said or something, maybe it wasn't that clear, you ask
Oh, yeah,
for it.
yeah, I think that, yeah, I
And you
think that's
can't do that from the
perfectly fine.
video.
No,
Yeah.
but if you know you want to clarify, you ask them at that point, what was it you said? It's not, I mean, as I said, I've done it for nearly 6 years, and that's why I think it's time for someone else to do it. But it's not really that labor-intensive a job. I started doing it, I think I was brand new to the committee, maybe had one committee meeting, and I forget who was clerk, it might have been Sandy, who was stepping down, and Sandy said to me, "I think you should do it," and I said, "What? I'm brand new." And she said, "Oh, but that's how you learn, because it forces you to pay attention." She said, "That's what I did," so
I mean-
I offer that for your consideration.
If someone wants to give me a piece of paper, I can do it for today. That
Excellent.
would solve today's problem.
Excellent, yes.
But we should have someone selected before the next meeting, so it doesn't, it only postpones, it postpones it, but doesn't,
Oh. Thank you. I have.
Got a pen. I got plenty of paper.
I mean, I don't think it's that hard. Also, you're not doing a,
Weren't you a lawyer, though?
yes.
Like, you're like,
Yeah, well, but there are many different styles of keeping minutes.
That's true. You don't have to be detail-oriented.
okay.
It just, this is and keep this in mind, it's an advisory committee. You know, there are really different styles. Some people are much more focused on fine points, and then there's the overview, which is really what it's there to provide. So,
Basically, really, all you have to do is, obviously, the name of the body, the date, time, and place, the names of all the members present and absent, the names of staff present, and the substance of all discussion, including all subjects acted upon or heard. I mean, the substance of discussion is a very wide-open term. It could simply say, the committee discussed the 208 plan and how it impacts the town's wastewater studies, that sort of stuff. And you do have to record motions, and you have to record how people voted on the motions.
Question, Adele, does the video use the agenda outline as the structure for the,
What video uses, and I can pull one
Hopefully.
up now, is they usually use, no, they don't follow the agenda as such. What they follow is the discussion.
Yeah.
I'll show you one.
Well,
well,
Harris
I
always
looked
has
at
this
one,
little
but I
note.
didn't have an agenda. I
No,
mean,
it doesn't
I've
follow.
listened to a
You know,
couple
to
of
the
the
extent
videos.
the discussion follows the agenda, it'll roughly parallel the agenda. To the extent the discussion departs from that, it'll follow.
Yeah,
He,
I mean,
he
there-
probably
Charles-
puts a label up on the video, or I haven't seen what Eastham does, but that is an option in the software to put up for
Well, it-
markers of what.
Given that we
They do
have
put
the
up
video.
markers,
Yeah.
but they don't, what Mary Lou asked is, does it follow the agenda? And I said, no, it follows the discussion.
Yeah.
I'll show you one.
I think Charles always puts this note in, discussion order may be other than listed order.
Yeah.
Yeah, my style is to put in a list of items that have to be, but then go at them on a priority order. The most important thing, I want to make sure we have enough time to talk about, and then the next most important, and that kind of thing. That's just kind of my style for doing it. I do know that Mike does get a copy of the agenda at the beginning of each meeting, so he has a sense over in the office now of what's coming along. Mike did tell me that he rarely takes more than 2 days to post the video after the meeting. And yes, he does, I think he did say that he goes through and kind of blocks out topics as they come along.
Okay, if you look up there, that's the example of our May meeting.
Yes.
So, I mean, you have a general sense of you know, what's being discussed and where it's being discussed. You usually can find stuff fairly
Oh, wow,
easily.
that-
But my point would be that given that we have the videos, which are an incredible resource, that the most important single thing is in fact keying the discussion to the video, so that that can be very accurate. And given that you do that, as you're saying, there are just a few more, I guess, Robert's Rules of Order necessary things that have to be
The
done.
town doesn't necessarily follow Robert's Rules of Order, which makes everything sort of, no, basically our guide to what the minutes have to contain is the Attorney General's rules and policies on the open meeting law, which, you should have all gotten this, by the way. And I hope you didn't all get it and say, gee, that's interesting, I don't need that. You do need it. You need to at least familiarize yourself with what it says about meetings and that sort of stuff. Because what's in here applies to all of you. Meetings and the ability to use email to discuss committee business, it's all covered here in the Attorney General's Guide. And for purposes of this guide, we are municipal employees, and we're governed by everything that governs municipal employees about meetings. As you all should have learned when you took the little ethics
Yeah.
test
Well, I
or
was going
whatever.
to ask you, Adele, that ethics test, was that sufficient information? Does this contain a lot more? I
Oh,
thought that was
yes,
pretty
this
thorough.
contains much more. Well, the ethics was only about one issue, basically, mainly conflict of interest and, you know, money, that sort of thing. This just contains a lot of detailed requirements about meetings held by public bodies, because it is the open meeting law, and it lays out the state's rules about what public bodies have to do when they have a meeting and there's more than a quorum there, what kind of notices they have to post. I mean, you should look through it, it's not that long. It's, because the back of the folder has the statute in it, the State Ethics Commission rules, and all the rest of it. So the part that actually deals with open meetings itself is, I think, just 26 pages. It's not that long. It's not hard to read, it's not the law. It is a written, oh, it's not even 26 pages, because some of that is the law. No, maybe 18, 20 pages, something like that. You know, you can, and as Suzanne points out, I am a lawyer, I know what's in here, and so I have, on occasion, taken it upon myself to advise committee members who start chit-chatting in email that that's not appropriate, et cetera. But I may not always be here to do that. So I think it's important that people take a look at this, because it can get pretty nasty if somebody doesn't like what's going on in the committee and decides to file a complaint with the Attorney General. I had that happen with this committee. Somebody who thankfully has passed on from the town, and he didn't have a valid basis for a complaint, but nonetheless, a complaint was filed, and it meant I had to amass all sorts of emails and go through all sorts of stuff. And so, you know, it's just best to know what the rules are and try to follow them, so you don't have to worry about that. But that's for everybody, that's not just the clerk, that's everybody on the committee.
Okay,
Well,
perfect.
I'm
So
think-
do
well-
we need to figure out the chair situation now?
Well, no, we would need to do a vote. I'm thinking, Suzanne, this would be an excellent opportunity for you to have a lawyer guide you through the little intricacies, and that would be useful information for the rest of your working career.
I know.
We might also say that, well, would you step up to it for, say, a condition of 6 months?
Okay,
And I
And,
would volunteer to stand in her place if she's absent. I mean, you have had some reasons to occasionally be gone.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there
okay.
is a clerk of the day when the
right.
committee
Now,
clerk is
now,
absent.
to be truthful with you, there is the business of making sure that sort of related documents get named in the minutes.
Well, I
w-
think she's probably seen that at the end of minutes. I mean, I can provide you with copies of 3 or 4 months' worth of minutes, and you can look at them, because I keep them all on my computer.
Okay,
So
I
I'll
should
just
have
send
them
you
somewhere in my
electronic
house,
copies,
but,
and it'll give you a sense of how it works.
okay,
And there are other sort of details I'll talk to you about afterwards,
okay.
relevant to
All
the
right.
clerk and that sort of thing.
Well, I think I'm hearing Jeff nominating Suzanne for a 6-month tour.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
You'll second it? All right.
And Suzanne, if you are unable to attend, you'll let me know. My phone number's on the
Well, you'll know when you get
membership.
here.
Oh, I like a little advance warning. Maybe I'm gonna be gone, you know.
Well, then someone else will do it. I mean, there's
Okay,
no,
it's
there's
not
no
that-
official designation
that
of, we never have in the past anyway. Someone who's here just steps up and is clerk of the day.
And your last name then is Bumby?
Bumby.
Okay.
And it's-
All right, so Suzanne, it's yours.
Well, yes, those in favor say aye. Raise
Aye.
your right hand. Those opposed, nay. Hearing nothing, so that would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, Suzanne? 6-0?
You vote for yourself.
Oh, yeah, sure, yes.
6-0. All right, so then we need a chair. And if any, I will say that if anybody is really feeling like they would like to be chair, I'd be very happy to step aside and let them.
Are you eligible to serve another term, Charles?
Do you want to?
Hope he does.
Well, I think I am. I think I'm in my third term, third 3-year term. So I think I'm eligible. I'm not positive of that. I will make the point that we are at a point where we've got new members, except for Adele, so we don't have that kind of a bench to draw from as easily as perhaps the committee has had in some other times.
Would you like to be the chair now that you're no longer the clerk?
I'd give it a try.
Oh, boy. So I think we've nominated Adele.
No, we can have, there could be an election. I mean, there could be 2 nominees.
Well,
I'm not sure he's nominated himself.
Oh, okay,
Oh,
okay.
do you want to nominate yourself? I don't know. I don't want to like pressure someone into doing something they don't want to do.
Adele, I'd be very happy to be, to turn it to you and to be a co if you wanted me to step in, but you're good about making the meetings.
All right, well, why don't we do the chair, and then I guess I'm going to make a motion for a vice chair.
Okay, so we have one nomination, I think I'll read that, Suzanne is nominating Adele.
I would second that.
Okay, and Scott seconds. So do we have any other nominations? Hearing none. We will go to a vote unless you want some more discussion. And those in favor, please say aye, raise your right hand.
All right
I
here.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Adele, you're the new chair, and would you want any further definition on a co-chair or anything like
Well, I was
that?
going to say, I was going to make a motion for a vice chair, and I would nominate you as vice chair.
All right.
Certainly hope that you will continue all the good work you've been doing on checking up on stormwater runoff, and, because in fact, well, I'll tell you that story after we finish the vote.
So would I second that? Do you need a second?
Yeah,
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 probably.
you
Vice
do.
Chair. You accept it, right, Charles?
Yes,
Yeah,
yep.
okay.
So, all right, those in favor, I guess we'd say, please say aye, raise your right hand.
Aye.
Looks like 0-6, so, all right.
Okay. What I was going to say is, probably a lot of you haven't seen it, because I didn't send it out, I guess, till around 11 or 11:30 this morning. I'm beginning a document. It's something that Sandy and I started years ago, sort of got pushed by the wayside, which is sort of a running history of what the town actions have been on wastewater since 2000, I guess. And Sandy had gotten up to 2010, and then I started after that, and I started first with ponds, because I don't think you can mix together the ponds and the estuaries type thing. And I thought I knew where I was going and finding things, so I went and I looked in my computer file. And one result of all of this was I now have a well-organized folder on my computer of ponds. I had all the stuff there, but it was here and there and there. It was all under ponds, but it wasn't broken down by subject. So it's now very broken down by subject. And one of the things I realized in going through that was, and I'll try to put something together for the next meeting, and it's something that you worked on, Charles, was the stormwater stuff. We had a whole list of ponds that were impaired by stormwater runoffs, other than the major one, obviously, at Minister's Schoolhouse, and on both sides, that and the Park Street on the other. And I also came across the April 2013, I guess, update that Liz Moran did on the pond fact sheets, and was flipping through those and realized that she'd been talking about the stormwater runoff. So I think one thing we could profitably do is go back and review those where we are, and maybe ask Neil, I got to look through it a little bit more, to attend either our August meeting or our September meeting to bring us up to date on the status of all of those. So we know sort of what's going on and can take some action on it. But a lot of those stormwater runoffs were identified by Charles, as he went around town looking at various spots.
Charles, is it appropriate for me to ask a question at this point, or make an observation about what Adele's been doing?
Let's see.
Well, I'm not volunteering for anything else, is the observation, because I have volunteered to be trained to update the website. And one of the things I've done is look carefully at your page, which is not only up to date, but is very attractive, let's just put it that way, as opposed to most of the other web pages, ours included. So I have a lot of questions I need to ask about how much freedom and flexibility we have as we go into a new website, because apparently there is a plan, but what I've been told is that the selectmen keep being busy and it keeps being, moved to the bottom of the agenda. But we can still work on our own web pages in the process. And one of the things we need to do, it seems to me, is to, in fact, in large content areas like this, identify what's relevant and should be publicly available and what should be archived somewhere. Because it doesn't seem to me that in what we have now, there's been any of those kinds of judgments made. And what Adele has just done is the perfect foundation for doing that in at least one area we have. Because I don't think people are interested in every detail of what's gone on since 2000. They are interested in an up-to-date overview of important areas. But it's really hard to make those decisions unless we spend some time literally thinking about it.
Well, you had raised a question in an email I know I saw, but I couldn't find. For some reason, the search mechanism on my computer is deciding to go wacky. About, and I don't know if we want to get into that now or maybe do Suzanne's thing first, about what the purpose of the documents on our webpage should be. Is it, as you said, the historical record of everything? Is it things of current interest? Is it for the committee? Is it for the public? I mean, just what purpose do we want that to serve? And I agree, I think those are questions that we do have to answer as a guideline. And I guess one thing we're going to have to find out, and maybe you can find out, is it possible to archive things? mean, I don't even know the answer to that.
That's a good question. It certainly should be possible to archive it somewhere.
Well, Mike might be a place to, no, he doesn't do it, though. Well, Mike,
I've got new information
yeah,
on
well,
that.
Mike was here before I
Yeah,
came in, yeah.
Let's see, just let me, keeping some little notes. Okay. By coincidence, when Mike was setting up the room before we opened up the meeting, I asked him what he knew about the web pages for committees. And he said that the town, within the last, I don't know, 10 days or so, has hired a new IT person. And Ed Romer has moved on to another position. All right. And he said the discussion has been that perhaps the town would buy a new program and replace what the program that we now have. And he also said that it appeared that it might be a whole lot easier to post to it than what it is now. Okay, so that's new information. Now, in a different direction, Mary Lou and I have been talking about how to go forward with a project of updating the website. And let's see. And we had already made an agreement that after this meeting, she and I would talk, and I would try and bring her up to date on as much as we have done in the past. And what I intend to talk to her about is the fact that in the latter part of 2015, through about January of 2016, we did have a discussion at the table as to what we could do to improve the website. And a way forward wasn't coming out of what we were discussing.
Mary Lou has
And
that
I have
discussion.
that.
has
Adele said that to me.
She has the minutes of the meeting, and she also has the document.
Oh,
But
excellent.
when I look back over that document, I also realized that we had sort of gotten so lost in the weeds that we need to sort of take a whole fresh look at it, I think.
That's exactly what
Because
I'm doing.
it was, we had gotten into too many little nitty-gritty and missed some big picture items.
Well, basically, what I'm doing is I'm going through the existing site and finding some stuff that's just housekeeping, finding some other stuff that I think there's really a current replacement for something that's there and broken. What I haven't done yet, but what I intend to do, is go through that document item by item and compare it to what we have now, what I'm finding that should be replaced, and what was done at that point, bring the two together.
There is something I noticed, and I meant to send you an email, I forgot. It was because I was looking for something, and I went there to look for it and didn't find it. What purports to be the final version of the committee's, what the heck do we call it? Pond Water Quality Protection Plan is not the final version. It's version 0.9. There is a version 1, which I guess I should
Well,
send to you.
those are the things I'm trying
I-
to smoke
I
out.
will
There's a
s-
duplicate on
Yeah,
one of those things also.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
There's much just simple housekeeping
Okay.
to be done. But I think when you see it all in front of you in a spreadsheet, it'll be a lot easier to go in and say, okay, I know there's something newer than what's there.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, what I was proposing is that at the next meeting, Mary Lou present kind of an overview of what's existing. She's worked on a spreadsheet that kind of lays out the details. And she's also come up with a trial list of objectives as to, and if we discuss that in the August meeting,
Charles, remember, you won't be chairing in the August meeting, okay?
Oh,
So we
okay.
don't get ourselves too
Well,
confused
well,
about where we're going.
well, but this has been, I'm just relating email, I was
Okay.
proposing a way to go forward to Mary Lou in the last day or two when I sent her emails. And I
Okay.
was basically just saying what I said in the emails. Is the, so, and basically we were she would sort of give an overview in August, and we would ask members after the August meeting, but before the September meeting, to go and look and sort of just generally acquaint yourself with what the existing condition is, and that would allow for a discussion as to what could be done in September. To me, I was just sort of laying out a game plan. If there's a better game plan, we can do that instead.
I guess my only reservation about that, and it'll depend, as I said, I sent out this thing this morning, which identifies a number of things, including one, like this update that I just mentioned to Jane, which for some reason, I think it pretty much escaped us. I had it in our files, in my files, but I don't remember it ever being discussed. And I know it's not on the website, and it belongs on the website. And I'm wondering if, well, if I find more things like that, I'll find more things like that. But because I'm only up to, well, that was 2013, so I guess I'm up to 2013. So I think clearly it would make sense if you've developed a spreadsheet, to present it at the next meeting, and we'll discuss it and then decide where to go from there.
And for everyone to be thinking about the issue of what do we really
Yeah.
want people
Yeah.
to know? Is it just the most recent? Do we want a complete history or something else in between?
If Charles said, now you set out sort of a listing of possible goals.
All I'm doing at this point is going through what's there now.
Yeah.
If it's okay and it works, I'm saying so. If the link is not broken, or if there is something strange, like there appear to be 2 copies of the same document, I'm indicating that. If I think I know a replacement myself, I'm saying, is this what we should replace it with? But I'm not making any attempt, I'm too new, to say there are things that aren't on this webpage
Yeah.
that
Now,
should be
that I
here. That's
understand
the next step.
about the documents, but I thought he also said that you either had set out a list of questions or something about the scope, what the scope of the website should be. Is that, no?
I have
Okay.
my own personal objectives, I suppose, and that's what I shared with Charles and would be happy to share it with the rest of you. Basically, it is to make our webpage more user-friendly and more engaging to the public without having made a judgment about what we want them to be engaged in,
Okay.
about the content
All right.
itself.
Well, as I said, we can't send out emails as committee members to one another or the whole committee discussing things. But the type of thing you're talking about, this listing that you've done, which it just sets out, can be sent out in advance of the meeting, clearly labeled for discussion at the meeting. And as long as there's no discussion among us, I mean, there has to, because otherwise committees could not accomplish very much, obviously, if you didn't know anything till you came to the committee meeting and then you looked at it for the first time. So documents that you want to discuss at the committee
Okay.
can be sent out, but with no editorial comments. I mean, obviously, the document has comments, they found this is out of date, but no sort of verbiage about how to use this or anything like that, just the
I will pull
listing.
out that Attorney General's report and read that, because the other things I've seen from that office have been very good. But this is the academic in me showing up. When we say no discussion, does that mean no discussion of content, or no discussion of process, or no discussion of both?
Do you mean no I'm not clear what you mean by no discussion.
Okay, well, yeah, content is one thing.
Yeah.
But how we're going about this is another thing. And I'm asking the question of, should we just
Well,
not
when you
discuss
send
any-
it out and say this is for discussion at the next meeting, that's sort of saying, that's the first step in the process.
I suppose, it's not saying what the second step is, I
Yeah,
suppose,
yeah,
is my
yeah.
issue about
And I think
process.
that should be, at least the committee should have a chance to look at it, to decide what they think, what we all think the next step should be and how soon, that sort of
That
thing.
makes sense.
So, all right, so,
Yeah, I just want to, I think you're spot on, great idea. And the first part of that is deciding what you want to convey. Certainly, that's the hardest part. So you will, as a committee, have to decide that. But there is redundancy. It's okay to have documents, the same documents in two different locations. That's not really a problem. I think the bigger picture is really what you're saying, what do you as a group, what is your goal for the community? And regarding IT support, we did hire someone. Art is right now, as far as I know, he's still just part-time and not necessarily, so I think there's a transition.
Who is this?
Art Sestero is our new IT replacement
Interesting.
for,
Is he the one who's he's not replacing Ed Romer, is he?
yeah.
Oh,
Right
he
now he
is.
is in a transitional period. He's with us 3 days a week, but committees don't have access to, you can't,
You can't post your own.
you
stuff.
can't
Yeah.
approach a town employee and say, will you please work on my project? You have no budget. You are an advisory committee. So if you could lay out a game plan, then we'll see what's involved. And then, I'll direct you in one way or another.
Okay.
So there's certainly, it's not that you can't get assistance and can't get help. It's just, you don't have the ability to engage a municipal employee for this committee's work.
I understand
Okay.
the difference, having worked for the state for most of my adult life. But there are a lot of questions, like, for example, will there be sort of a page template and a new
Hey,
website?
I really think this is for the next meeting, okay?
Yeah.
You'll come in with your document as to what's there, and then we'll try to get into the whole process and go through it all in one stage. Well, you don't need that now, do you? Now you're just simply going through and identifying what's there, right?
I'd like to know how much flexibility we have in working with our webpage, but that may be Jane's page proves that there is some flexibility, because it doesn't look like the rest of them.
Yeah.
And so I'm just very curious how far we are allowed to go. But it may be that there's a whole set of questions that could come out of the next discussion, and then I could find out how to pose those.
I think basically having, well, I've been on this committee for what did they say, 6 years? And otherwise involved with various things in town and things related to the website. I think what it comes down to is there's probably no answer to what we are or are not allowed to do with our webpage, because unfortunately, from my perspective, and I think it is changing somewhat from things I've heard, both about the new IT guy and other things, the website has not been a major focus of attention of our town administration, and including the fact, something as basic as the fact that we don't have a search engine on the website. I mean, it's absolutely incredible that you know that there's something on the website, but the only way you can find it is you have to go through your own mental process of where would it have been filed. You can't plug, there's a little box that says search, but try plugging a term in there. You get nothing, because there's no search engine. And it just, I think those sorts of things are changing, and I suspect that if we come up with a plan of, that makes sense of what we would like to see on our webpage, that it's probably available. So I think maybe we move in that direction. But
So I like Charles's idea of maybe everyone go and review what materials are out there and what the actual organization looks like. And then we could probably discuss this more at the next meeting.
Yeah, I was.
yeah,
I
well,
was-
Mary Lou's going to send out her listing.
Yeah, basically, I'm trying to do the legwork for you.
Oh, okay.
No, is your listing ready to go now, or?
No,
No.
it's not
Do you
finished.
think it'll be ready to go like in a couple of weeks, or?
Yes.
All right, so send it out, and if you want to save time, you may want to wait till you get her Because
Okay.
for one thing, she'll tell you, there are redundant documents on our page. So she'll save you some time by telling you that 2 versions of it you don't have to read.
Okay.
So,
Exactly, that's what I'm trying to do.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so Mary Lou sends out what she's got ahead of the August meeting?
Right.
Got it.
And we
Okay.
will take a look at that and then maybe spend some time going and looking at the actual documents themselves. And while they won't be formally raised, obviously, we know the questions. I mean, what do we want this webpage to accomplish?
Okay.
And maybe be prepared to talk about that at the next meeting.
Yeah.
And I guess also, and I don't even know where we would find the answer. It would be useful to know, well, a thought. We may not be able to archive documents, but let's proceed on the basis of suggesting what we think should be archived for historical interest only. And at least we'll have that done, and if we find out we can't archive it, then we'll set it up in such a way that
You do
maybe in a
2
separate
folders
folder.
within
Yeah,
the same,
yeah.
the same heading. Yeah,
Right.
there's a whole
But
variety
so
of
that,
ways of
yeah,
handling
so
it.
that people don't have to plow through a lot of old stuff to get to what they want.
Adele, let me just check with you. I did hear you say that you had sent to Mary Lou material that related to the earlier review that we did.
It was the last iteration of the document that we were working on in 2015.
Okay, yeah, I think I have a paper copy of it with me. What I did when Mary Lou and I were just kind of consulting back and forth in the last couple of days here, was I reached into my file, because I had filed that previous work. And me sitting down and updating you is kind of an exception to okay procedure in the town. What I found was that it's best that 2 members don't have side conversations, that we essentially talk about everything at the table. But on the other hand, if it's helpful for me just to kind of say, well, this is the history of the program, not meaning to point it in any one particular direction. Adele, are you comfortable with that? Mary Lou, do that
Yeah,
after
I
this
don't
meeting?
even think there's a problem with 2 members having a
It's a
conversation.
quorum. It's a quorum.
Yeah.
If you can't deliberate, this is a public
Yeah.
meeting. So in theory, you do not want to be making decisions behind closed doors in light of the fact that you are working as a public entity. And the public is entitled to hear the deliberations. 2 people are not a quorum. So you can talk to each other
Okay.
all you want about something. You can't make a decision for the committee behind closed doors, a quorum, meaning the majority of you have already pre-orchestrated a decision behind closed doors. You come into a public meeting, you vote on it, and there's been no public open process. That's illegal. So you don't want to get into chains of emails and those types of things, because those can lead to decisions. So, 2 people or 1 person relating to the chair, 1 person, that's fine. That is not a problem. If you meet on the street, you want to talk about water all day long, that is absolutely fine.
Since we have Jane here, can we have her give us our update and then maybe come back to this if that's,
Well, I think
At
we've
all
probably
possible?
exhausted this for now, and then
Yeah.
do Jane and then your report on shellfish.
Okay. Water construction continues, things are going well. There was a little snag with some of the permitting within that due to the discovery of an endangered species of toad. So that's being addressed at the permit level, and we'll see where that goes. It might actually,
Minister Schoolhouse?
no, this is with the water, our water
Oh,
project.
water supply, oh, okay,
Municipal
okay.
water project.
Where'd they find the toads?
Oh, yeah.
It's in the vicinity where they were going to be laying lines for the second storage tower.
Oh, okay.
It's a spade-foot toad. It's a really cute little guy. And it's a little elusive, and it's going to cause a permit problem. So they're trying to work around that right now. But in terms of the water system, there have been very few problems that have been brought to my attention. Of course, I'm not directly involved in construction or any of that sort. But, you know, they continue to move along. There was an issue at a condominium where some of the private work led to some difficulties, but we're trying to learn from mistakes and prevent things moving forward. So anyway, that construction is still really going strong, and that website, our town website is, for the water project, is kept up to date, so you can see weekly updates and so forth. So I suggest that people go there if they have any, need for information and so forth. In terms of wastewater planning, we had a meeting with the Board of Selectmen last month at a work session, just to give an update to the selectmen. GHD presented the wastewater planning side of it with Jessica Janney and Jeff Gregg. It is on video on demand, so if you have an interest in seeing the full meeting, you can do so. Even though it was a work session, it was filmed. And then I did the component that I feel we are really actively engaged now in terms of our wastewater planning effort, is really the boots on the ground data collection. We have, I tried to give the Board of Selectmen, an overview of all that monitoring that we're currently doing, which is really quite extensive for a town of our size. And it really is thanks to all the volunteers, and that includes the pond testing. We did a spring round of pond testing, which will be analyzed by our limnologist at the end of the year, which is, again, advanced for most communities. They're getting the data, but they're not analyzing it. So I'm really happy that we have a firm grasp on that. We also did the aquatic vegetative study of Schoolhouse Ministers Pond. Solitude did that, there's the company doing that work. And they also did some water sampling. I don't have those results back yet, but as soon as I have that report, I will share that with you. And again, I was in touch with our limnologist today, Liz Moran from Ecologics, and she's working on the team with us, and so she's looking forward to getting those reports as well. And through all that information, we're hoping to put together a short list of what can be done for Schoolhouse Ministers Pond, what can't be done for Schoolhouse Ministers Pond, and sort of drive that project ahead. In terms of the MEP sampling, which is the Nauset saltwater sampling at Nauset Estuary is the area that we are focused in. We are working in conjunction with the towns of Orleans, Brewster, and Chatham to do that work. And we have 5 stations. We've met, our volunteers have been trained through this group training process with the other towns, and all the equipment was distributed. I put together a spreadsheet with all the contact information. Several of you are involved in this effort, and since you're right here at the table, I will hand out, just so you have, and Charles is doing that as well, the teams, oh, sorry.
I think she has some.
So you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 stations that we're responsible. And we have Scott. Scott is the captain of the boat that is sampling stations 28 and 29. And they have a team of 4. They do the 2 stations. And you have a backup with Jean Murillo this year, who's going to do so it's fortunate, because if you have an issue or a shortage, we have an extra person. And likewise, on stations 36 and 37, this year, Amy and Joanna are really going to do both stations, but we have the backup of Joanna Buffington. We also have, our town is going to be doing have the boat out at Salt Pond, and Charles and Susan did that same site last year. They're going to do that again, and thank you very much, because that's my most difficult station. It is extremely anoxic, meaning there's no oxygen there, so Charles has become very skilled at doing the extra testing that's required. It's complicated, and it requires all these reagents and whatnot, and it takes time, and they have to do, this is a very deep location, so they have to do 2 samples, so it's a thank you. And if, so that's gonna be my Salt Pond team. And then in Nauset Basin, this is a real important thing to me. I actually just went up to the National Seashore today. I met with the new sample team. These are summer interns for the most part that work under Sophia Fox, who's their aquatic biologist, hydrologist. I met with her as well. And so this is the team from the Cape Cod National Seashore. This is a very critically important component, because they are part of our team. This is, I can't overstate how important that is, that they are partnering with us on this effort. And so this information hopefully leads us to a very thorough understanding of the extent of the problem. And since they're a partner on our team, I'm sure they're gonna partner with us in trying to provide a solution to the problem, and that's our goal. So this is our second year of sampling. These are very specific sampling, dates and time frames, and so it requires a lot of coordination. Adele is helping because we are currying the samples to Chatham. So again, it's a lot of work, and this will be pivotal information in developing the implementation of a wastewater management plan with actual components, you know, that lead to action steps. And
What samples are being taken to Chatham?
all of them. So when you,
The ones from Nauset,
No.
not the pond, the
the
estuary.
question, I actually had this question, you realize, Scott, that Sandy picked up all the equipment for you, right?
I hope she did.
She did.
I've
And,
talked to her since then.
and I basically am providing your, you know, all this information so your own individual team can coordinate within those timeframes, because I really don't need to be involved, I just make it more complicated. So,
Yeah,
you know.
she was always bringing it to North Orleans Town Hall, I thought, or something.
Right, so I was in contact, we are working with Orleans, and Carolyn Kennedy asked me that question. If you want to bring your samples to Orleans like you did last year, that's fine. You can either bring them to Orleans, or you can bring them to me.
Well,
Your
Sandy's
choice.
the one who always did
Same,
it.
okay, I'll clarify that with Sandy.
Right.
The bottom line is, all of the samples go to Chatham. Chatham then takes them up to Dartmouth for us, so, in a big truck.
So
a
in
lot of
other words,
water.
taking it to Orleans was just an intermediate step, and then they took it
Correct.
to Chatham anyhow, so it
Yeah,
didn't
and they
matter.
said it's fine. And so throughout this process, we might be shifting those swing people, Joanna Buffington and so
Yeah,
forth, you know, as needed.
You know how Suzanne listed here?
You know why? You didn't email me, did you go to the training, either training?
I went to training last year,
Okay,
so I don't think I made it to training this
okay.
year.
Did
Well,
you-
I didn't
Have you
make
been
it.
getting the emails that I sent?
It did pop up. I just have commitment issues, so I didn't know if I was going to be available or what my summer was
Okay.
going to look like, so I didn't end up actually.
Okay, so if you would like to participate,
Okay.
because you didn't get back to me,
Yeah.
and I sent several emails,
Yeah.
I took that as a negative.
Yeah.
So that's why I kept saying.
That's okay.
If
I'm
you're
not offended.
interested, and the requirements of the QA/QC of these programs really require that everybody go to a training, and that includes new personnel
Mm-hmm.
for a full-length training, or you have to go for the refresher.
Yeah, no, I
So,
understand.
You know, that's kind of where we are. You absolutely could still participate with a team who is like you're doing the data writing or whatever it is.
Okay.
So if you would like to, I would love to add your name to people who might be a backup.
Okay, sure.
Okay? Okay, so I have, do I have your contact?
No, I
Is
am-
it the same
I'm-
as last year?
Yes.
I actually thought maybe you moved.
You know, that was the hope and dream, but
Okay, because that's what, actually Sandy Bain told me that you had moved, and I said, okay, all right.
You used the job you're trying to get the job back in Arizona or something?
I mean, I've always been trying to move and it hasn't happened yet, so
Okay,
I'm still here.
all right. So, let me see, so I actually took your name off of this, Suzanne. So what is your email, is it written there, Adele, what her email address is?
Oh, yeah, it's
All right,
all,
I'll just
you
copy it
have
off
my,
of there.
you do have my email, it is the same, yes.
Okay, it is
So
the
I have received your emails, I
Okay.
just did a very poor job of
Okay.
responding to
That's
them.
quite all right. That
You
happens,
probably
that
have a
happens.
gazillion emails that you get, so.
I do,
Yeah,
truly I do.
no, I
And
know,
am
I can
often
imagine.
very quick at delete, delete. And then I think,
'Cause you
I
probably-
may have
so many.
wanted to read that. So, anyway, no worries, no worries, I don't take it personally.
One other thing, well, two things. Francis is ES, not IS.
Oh, okay,
That's a man's name.
all right, that's excellent, I appreciate that.
And the second thing was, I think we tried to have you switch to her email instead of mine.
Okay,
She said, I'm SC.
all right, what is it?
Fran W. Lewis,
F-R-A-N
yeah.
W-L-E-W-I-S at Yahoo?
She's got two, I think it's at Gmail, but I'll get in touch with
Okay,
you
all right,
tomorrow.
Good,
I
okay,
don't
fine.
never know what email she wants, but she checks her email and I don't.
okay, all right. You know, I
I
know
mean,
this.
I check my work
and
email,
I know
but this
that's-
personal one I look at about once
and
every
s-
2 weeks.
And Sandy told me she was
Which
gonna
one-
call you, so.
Which one are we using for
Use
you?
S46L, that's okay, because I know when the meetings are coming up, and I always check ahead of time.
Oh, okay.
But
See, and I'm
she
sending
can
out
contacts me
reminders
anytime, and
all the
I-
time.
I
I'm like
see.
on
Okay.
people all the time.
And Francis checks her email all the time.
Speaking of emails, can you change this to Comcast.net? I've been trying to get that.
What is this?
Uh-huh.
My email is not, well, Charter.net does come through, but I'd rather people send it to
Comcast, okay.
Comcast.net.
You know, the emails, these companies are changing and stuff like that, it's like, I can't even keep up with which ones are my own.
So Suzanne, Jean Murillo,
Scott, there's, let me just, well, we're on emails.
Okay.
There's nothing here on this list for you, so what's
There's
your
nothing on
name?
which, list?
I guess I have it, but somehow it never made it onto whatever our official record. So what is it?
Oh, well, the one that's really mine is the one she had here, S46L,
Well, what do you need for the Water Management Committee?
S46L,
S
46.
46L?
Now, I have to,
what
I
does
make it.
that stand for?
No, I know, now I'm
No,
curious.
no, the L is Scott Lewis.
Oh, S 46L.
So did you do this when you were 46?
No, I was born in 46.
Oh, okay.
At,
At what, Scott?
Hey, 2046 hasn't come
in
up
case
yet.
anybody in the town of East Hampton wants to know when he was born. At what? At what?
Anybody?
Sharing.
At Comcast?
No,
At
Yahoo.
Yahoo.
Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, they've been having so much trouble with, the problem is you have an email for 20 years and then the company goes
know,
up,
right.
belly up
Hard
almost.
to
and
change it.
What can you do, you know, I'm stuck with.
And, well, I have yours, Mary Lou, I'll add it.
So,
You
it
have mine.
related
Yeah,
to
'cause I have to
selfishly
have it
to
on
my
my
needs
list.
here. Jean Murillo, if you are interested, she told me she's only available July 13th, the 24th, and the 11th, which would then mean,
July 13th is the one I can't make.
yep, and we have a boat
Oh, you do?
replacement for you.
Good. Well,
It's,
well,
it's Tim, not Lepard, Tim
oh,
something.
and I assume Jane will be, not Jane, Sandy will be
Tim
in
Link-
contact with him for that one.
Yes, so his name is Tim Linkilia, and
How you spell it?
Linkkia.
Linkkia.
I'm going to
what?
start at the beginning.
Yes.
Linkkia.
ILA. Linkilla. Okay, Tim Linkilla and, what did you
Yeah,
have in
and his boat is moored at Collins Landing, so the samplers have to kind of wade out in the muckier water. So he suggested waders or some such,
I've heard of it, but where is that? Is that-
Collins
That's
Landing?
in Eastham.
yeah.
So it's one of those ones off
Right
the side.
past the
there.
Rotary.
Right, that steep driveway landing down to the,
And maybe he could just come over to Goose Hummock and pick everybody up there,
maybe,
because all he has to do is move the boat, but they gotta get the equipment to it.
yeah, okay.
It's a
I'll
nice-
suggest that, I have to call, I'm not
I
sure
mean,
why he said that.
Sandy would probably like that, because she's gotta get all the equipment with her.
Yeah, right. Okay, I'll work on that. But at least I have a boat.
In fact, I was thinking I would be putting in now down at the other end of Town Cove, but I just come back to Goose Hummock to pick people up.
That's nice.
You know the the ramp at next to the,
Summit?
the Goose Hummock is the bad one. I want to stop using that one.
Oh,
The
'cause
the
it's-
docks are okay, but the ramp's awful. So
okay.
I was thinking I'd be putting in down by the, what's it, a yacht club or something down at the far
Oh,
end.
right,
There's
Orleans
a-
Yacht Club?
There's a town landing that's got 7 spaces. In the morning, that should be no problem. I was there yesterday, and there was
Okay.
no, all the spaces were taken up, as of course it's this time of summer.
You're supposed to have an Orleans resident sticker to use that.
I know, but they're not gonna give me any trouble at 7 o'clock in the morning. But nobody else is there.
Tell. I used to think that when I would take my dog to Great Pond at 8 o'clock, until somebody complained and the police met me there one day.
Well, you know, I talked to somebody, maybe it's the police department, or something, they said, yeah, I'm doing sampling for the
Yeah, that's- they
estuary,
probably
and they
let
said,
you go.
oh, that's okay, you can do it.
Yeah.
you know. I mean, I wasn't even there, I was just asking him about it, I don't know who it was. but-
You may want to just make a little sign.
Yeah,
and
just
put it-
make a little
put it on your
plaque and just
dash-
be like,
your
don't ticket or
dashboard.
tow.
Nauset Marsh Sampling,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
That's an
I'll
idea.
email it to you.
Yeah.
I'll make something up for you and I'll email it to you with the town sticker, seal on it.
Yeah.
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 But you know, when we go out in the mornings, there's nobody around.
I know,
Goose Hummock or
but-
anywhere.
They're right,
Yeah.
you know, if somebody is industriously up early and ticketing.
Are they actually
So-
saying the same thing now for Meeting House Pond? Because it used to be open except for parking. They've sent me up a church someplace the last time I tried to put in there.
Is that in Orleans?
Yeah.
I don't really
It
know.
goes-
Anybody else know? I don't know.
Yeah, I know it's getting harder and harder to get parking there. They now have no parking on all this road going in.
Right.
And they were having us a year ago, a year and a half ago, park your boat with the trailer, a car with the trailer up opposite Town Hall, but now they're putting a police station in where the
Yeah,
parking was.
I'm not quite sure. I know that our building inspector
Yeah.
used to put in where you're gonna go, Orleans Yacht Club.
Yeah.
And what he has to do is drop the boat off. He brings a bike on the trailer. He drives to wherever he can park his trailer, and then he rides his bike down to the, yeah.
Yeah,
So
sometimes
it's a
at
big
Goose
deal.
Hummock where I haven't been able to get a spot, I
Okay,
put the boat
Scott,
in
we're getting a little bit off topic, I think.
and park it in Stop and Shop.
Okay,
Okay.
but I will send you sort of something, it's not official, but hopefully
It'll get
they'll,
people's
they'll
attention.
say like, okay, for your car. Okay. And I'm gonna send you the dates when Jean is not, but you know what?
Okay.
There's gonna be commitments come up all the time, so I love that we have a little bit of a buffer, so
Okay.
thank you. And update spreadsheet. Okay, so I think that's it for me. Just very, very busy.
Is that
Oh,
ever
I
gonna
just-
change?
It came up the other day, and I couldn't remember the answer. Is the second pond sampling in August or September?
It's in September.
Okay. And on this aquatic vegetation study and the water sampling, do you have any idea when Liz would have completed some analysis of the water there?
Well, the question is, do we have her do the analysis before we get the September results back? I honestly say yes, because the September results go to UMass, and they take forever to get us the results back. Provincetown Center for Coastal Studies is fast, so we'll be waiting until forever. I mean, they are free, they don't charge us for the analysis, we pay for the others, but, I would say as soon as I get the study back, today I actually sent her the spring results from all the ponds. We should have the recommendations back from Solitude. They said 4 to 6 weeks. So-
When did they say that, though? They said 4 to 6 weeks recently?
They said 4 to 6 weeks, and that was when we did the survey, but this was also the survey biologist, not necessarily
So
the
that was
person writing the report.
4 to 6, so you think
Yeah, so
maybe
I'm-
late
yeah,
August?
Yeah, I'm thinking late
Okay.
August.
I'm wondering if maybe, because one of the things that Charles distributed on the back of the agenda was a letter, follow-up letter by a couple of those abutters.
Yeah, he just actually brought that in to me today,
And
and,
I'm wondering if maybe we should
yeah,
give some response to them.
I will, Charles didn't have it electronically, so we will send a letter to them. I actually have it upstairs. Oh, here it is. Oh, no, that's not it.
And this letter, you're talking about the one on the back of the minutes,
Yeah.
that one falls under documents distributed?
Yeah, everything that gets
Okay.
distributed at the here or stuff, picking up stuff that gets distributed through the email for discussion at the meeting.
And just on the stormwater side, I will, you probably already know this if you read the papers, the EPA has pushed back implementation of a new permit, they're called MS4 permits, that were supposed to be implemented this year. And now they are pushing that implementation date out to FY18. So that's another year of, we'll just be reporting, just like we did last year, under the old permit. However, Cape Cod has formed a regional coalition for stormwater managers, and we got a grant, and we are collectively gonna put heads together. And one of the objectives of this group was, we shouldn't independently all fill out the same paperwork. Let's collectively do it and provide templates to people so you can easily, quickly get through this rote report. I think we're still gonna go ahead with that, and I think more importantly, to the town of Eastham, is we have some real priority projects that Mass State Highway is dismissing, and we really need some support to bring our projects to a high level of attention. And I've already talked with Jackie, and I know we've talked about it a little bit, that we can, keep making our case scientifically, which we will continue to do with the sampling program, with testing the stormwater, with our investigation of that targeted watershed. But politically, we have to start marching down that road too, because we're never gonna solve this problem, So the sampling should support this, I would assume it would support this, we'll see, you never know. But, so, that group is gonna meet for the very first time in July. And so Neil Andres and I will represent the town of Eastham, whether we take turns or we go together or whatever. So, because we work together on the stormwater aspect, so I think that's a good thing for the Cape as a coalition. Good idea to do that, so.
And so what's the permit that, so you said the
It's,
EPA pushed back the implementation date for a different type of permit, but we have a permit now. What's the permit?
It's
Do.
called an MS4 permit, and it's municipal stormwater.
Okay.
And depending on your distance from areas of certain population by the census, certain communities fall within what's considered an urbanized area.
Okay.
And so we are like
Right there.
500 people over the benchmark, and just at the edge of the distance ratio. And so we have to comply with the same stormwater permitting requirements that Fall River does. And so forth. And so it's a huge administrative responsibility. But right now, since we're trying to solve some problems, I'm trying to look at this as lemonade instead of lemons, and that we've done so much work to be in compliance with this permit, that we really now have a really good handle on where our outfalls are, and in terms of catch basin maintenance, and all of these, aspects of how, you prevent stormwater from impacting your waterways. It's actually not a bad thing right now. And also with the education component, the new permit is gonna require that communities educate citizens about fertilizer use and impacts to waterways and all sorts of issues related to stormwater. We've already started that. We recently had a meeting at the library. It was about sustainable gardening, but there was a component on fertilizer use. So that would get credit for that. So again, it's an endless process, education and outreach. And so some of the requirements that were really difficult for us to comply with, I think in the end will help us, because we're pretty organized in our mapping and stuff that communities that didn't have to do anything, they're not that far down that road, so. And, every bit of new information. It's hard when you have the EPA holding you hostage and requiring compliance, but on the other hand, it's made us be observant, and I think Neil would be the first one to tell you, honestly, what we've tried to do, like most small towns, is to get out of the whole system. So if we eliminate all of our outfalls, we eliminate our requirement to report. So that's where we are.
Okay. I think we're on to Suzanne, right?
Yes, I think we are.
I've got a couple of questions for you. What, you have a direct line or just go through the switchboard?
I have an extension, is that what you mean?
Yeah, well, it's the town number, extension number?
Yeah, and my extension's extension 3229.
I'm going back over to see George, and you had some people that wanted to go along.
No, that's okay, I'll just plan their trip independently, that's fine.
It's up to you. I mean, I spent 2.5 hours with him a week ago, and I'm going back over, so.
Yeah, no, I think, the Board of Health, Adele is a new member on our board, and Joanna Buffington and others. It's kind of good to go down with a group, I actually think, so
Okay,
I'll,
sure.
And oftentimes George will do a group,
Sure.
session, so we'll just do it that, and how you have your time.
Okay. I think we're on to you, Suzanne.
Okay, so it seemed slightly open-ended, like shellfish and aquaculture, and there's already been a number of things around Cape Cod. Conversations have been had, and the lovely resource director, or one of them in Harwich, gave me this PowerPoint presentation from, and I think, did you attend the meeting, Charles, of the 4th Annual Cape Coastal Conference? And so there is an entire PowerPoint that was done by, I can't pronounce his name.
Nice.
Josh Restova? Josh Restova. We have Diane Murphy, Abigail Archer, and it was done with the Cape Cod Collaborative Extension. So I figured, since we'd been talking a little bit about shellfish and aquaculture here and there, I was just going to condense some of what we had discussed. One, oysters are a bivalve mollusk. For people at home who might not know, they're filter feeders, so that's why they're being looked at as a potential to clean up our estuaries, since they essentially do it naturally just based on their biology. They'll consume nitrates, phosphorus, bacteria, plankton. We already have a gazillion people, not a gazillion, but a lot of expertise in growing oysters and quahogs on Cape Cod. All of the towns have a constable. I'm sure you all know someone who has an oyster grant. So we don't necessarily like need to do like a whole lot of research. You could just like reach out to the people who already know how to do this. There's Orleans has a pilot program. I kind of took this and was just gonna like go through whether or not it would work for Eastham. There's just like a gazillion questions. The size and the scale would definitely impact what the cost would be, as pointed out by this lovely presentation. The labor is going to be one of the biggest costs. Some of the concerns would be the space needed and if it's going to interfere with pre-existing use. Do you have the infrastructure for it? So do you have people who already recreationally boat there? Do you have people who already recreationally quahog or shellfish there? Do you have private property? Is this going to be put on town property? You have all of these lovely questions. Let's see, that needed to be answered, but going back to the biology of oysters, they already naturally clean waterways, and they would in general help balance the estuary. They aid in nutrient upcycling, so some of the nitrogen that they take in would then be, it would go into the atmosphere after they're done with it. Provides water filtration, habitat structure, biodiversity. They're important for general food webs. It would be a little bit different if they're farmed. And then, so I was gonna go over the risks, just like a brief little like overview of some of the potential problems that you could have when if you decided to do this as part of your nitrogen management plan. I forget exactly what you're gonna call it specifically. Procuring seed, we do have on Cape Cod what is it called? There's a hatchery in Dennis, and they produce the seed for the oysters for a lot of the farms around. So you would maybe have some issue procuring oyster seed because there's only one hatchery, so maybe you would need more hatcheries to keep up with that demand. Then in that regard, you have some issues with, well, if something happens in that process of procuring the seed and growing the seed, so you could have biological or environmental issues on that side of things. We've discussed briefly that weather can affect whether or not your oysters that you're depending on to clean your water they can all die. You could not have access to them because of storm weather, ice. They might not grow properly, which means the amount of nitrogen or phosphorus that they take out of the ecosystem might vary. And then if you have like this massive die-off of all of your oysters, then your like mitigation plan was not as effective as you had hoped it would be. They mentioned in that one as well that there's predator species that will move in, and I don't know, that might be in terms of like, oh, well now something might come and eat the oysters, but I don't necessarily think a bunch of crabs moving in is gonna be like the end of the world for the estuary. You also have issues with harvesting. You can have harmful algal blooms. So if there was the other end of this of like, oh, yay, now we have more oysters that we could sell, you might not be able to sell them because they could have, diseases. As, what was it, norovirus last year in Wellfleet. And I think the cause of that was someone discharging their head into the bay. So it wasn't really a like oyster people problem. It was more someone like dumped a bucket overboard. And then market dynamics, you could also potentially impact people who do grow these for a living if you suddenly have like all of the towns have this project where they use oysters as a way to clean the water, but then they want to sell them. You could decrease the value of oysters currently. Although there is an opportunity that you could have canned oysters, like a lot of the oysters that are eaten around Cape Cod are eaten shucked and raw, and so finding some sort of other market like canned clams sort of thing. I don't know if it was that helpful in going through the basics of it. I didn't really want to go like too far into statistics, or I think the Chesapeake Bay has done some things, so I could go and poke around that if you want an update. But in talking with the resources man in Harwich, he was like, yeah, it's a really nice idea, but you probably don't want to like have your plan depending on something that has so many variables, such as weather or disease or predation or even people coming and taking them because they're just not very nice people. However, I think it would be useful to have as just like an extra measure in this whole, what did we call it?
Multifaceted plan. I've
Yeah,
adopted
there we
your-
go. And then someone sent out, I think it was in April, and it had like different,
The matrix?
yeah, and there's circles,
Yeah.
and then it has different colors for each thing, and one of them was just like shellfish. It would create a large portion of it, and I don't know if I wouldn't probably support that one, although I really think like giving it a go would be super helpful in having it. Oh, one of the other concerns was placement, which I thought was interesting, is that they require a certain habitat, and a lot of our estuaries do have a muddy, mucky bottom that lacks a certain level of oxygen, which makes for not a great environment for oysters to grow, but at the same time, that's kind of why you might need or want oysters. And I guess there's a variety of ways in which you can grow oysters. We've discussed floating bags, there's reefs, there's a lot of different variables. Was that helpful?
I asked
Nice job.
a question about the, well, I remember we discussed floating bags. Is the oysters inside them?
Yes.
And they float because they have air in them or something?
It's just, I'm not a shellfish person, so I would suggest, we actually now have a shellfish committee, I believe. Or it's
Yeah.
either in the works or it's forming.
Oh, East
So
End
since
or-
I'm not a shellfisherman, I would suggest you invite someone who has a grant that
Okay.
knows the specifics of all the varieties of aquaculture options. I could tell you what I know, which is very little, or you could get it from an expert
Yeah.
who's probably done this with their families for generations. And I always think that that's the person you want to invite to talk to
We
this
actually,
subject.
my neighbor, whose family is the Collinses, and they have a grant. I mean, how many of you know someone who does oystering? I do, and the constables are all really nice too. So I always try and go around and pick their brains about this and that.
Suzanne, two questions.
Yes.
Are there any early statistics or findings that the people in Orleans have come up with? I mean, I see all the problems, and they're all legitimate
Yeah.
concerns. But looking at it from the success side, any early
I don't know. They're only like,
indications?
what, 2 years into their project? Maybe
Yeah, they
3. And currently they're irritated with the cost of it, is my
I'm
understanding.
sorry, irritated?
Irritated with the
cost.
cost of it.
There are two reports, actually, that Charles emailed to all of us on Lonnie's Pond, I guess probably before Mary Lou joined the committee, but I think everyone else is here. I have to try to find those and send them out again. It's also been the subject of one of those Orleans water quality. So one of the things I'm going to try and do, if I can organize myself to do it, is to keep a running track of things.
Yeah.
Instead of having to go back all the time and try to recycle my brain to figure out where these things are.
I could add a little detail on Lonnie's if
Yeah, sure,
if you need.
yeah.
Well, I had a second question,
question?
and that is, as a percentage of the nitrogen, phosphorus that's in these estuaries, if they would rely solely on oysters to remove this, or bivalves?
In the perfect, like, scenario, their ability to filter water is very high and very successful. And I didn't write down the numbers because I'm more of like a theory person and not really like a numbers person, but it is thought to be quite effective. Yeah, when it works
High percentage
properly.
of the nitrogen that could be removed this way.
Yeah.
It depends.
But that's the thing, is it depends on so many different things. It's like taking, like, if you strictly take the biology of the organism and then you expand out their potential based on these numbers and those numbers, you're just like, oh yeah, of course it should do that. But in actuality, it's probably not going to be as effective as like the model would say it would be.
One of the various, and I'm not finding it quickly, one of the various 208 plan technologies matrices. I mean, there's the one that you were describing, the bottom, then there's another one that's it's like a spreadsheet, I guess, the way it's done, which goes through each one and indicates what they believe the nitrogen reduction factor is for that particular technology. So it is all there. It's a case of, as I said, trying to remember where all this stuff is and then pull it together. But they do that for each one, for PRBs, for everything that's in the matrix. They assign some number to as the amount of reduction. And the chart does it in such a way that they, I remember they don't so much list them alphabetically as they try to weight them as which ones produce the most, the highest return, that sort of thing, yeah.
I just like caution you, though, this is theoretical, what the matrix from the
Yeah, well, that's what I
208 ones.
said, it tells you
So,
what they
you know,
think
it gives
it
you a
will do.
range,
Yeah.
but what you have to start with is,
Yeah.
you know, I go back to the way Liz Moran, our limnologist, described the situation. Let's stick with Salt Pond, since that's our priority watershed, targeted watershed, is that Salt Pond has to go on a diet. It has eaten too much food, so it needs to go on a diet. So that's why we're doing the MEP sampling again for 3 consecutive years, because we want to come up with an accurate level of what is the nutrient level currently. We know what the healthy ecosystem level will be, and that's 0.45 milligrams. So we need to do a mathematical equation to figure out how many calories do we have to take away from the diet to get back to the healthy place. So then you go to your toolbox and you say, I can do A, B, and C. And A, B, and C have to add up to the calorie reduction number to get us to a healthy place. So for every site you do that, there's a variability of how effective that water body might be for that particular option. And that's theoretical on the 208 MVP tools, they're called, or whatever, you know, all these acronyms, but the computer model that the Cape Cod Commission is using to help towns play out these different ABC options, the multifaceted option, I'm using that all the time now. And, you know, so it's, and then the question, the points you brought out are, it's a biological system, and anything that's like a fish tank, we've all had fish tanks as kids, and you put too much food in and the fish die. Or, you know, there's a power outage and you don't have electricity, so your pump didn't filter as well as it should have, and the fish die. or you don't have heat in your house and the water's too cold and the fish die. So when you have a living organism as part of the approach that you're using to replace a civil engineering wastewater treatment plant that has O&M operation standards and protocols that are tried and true, it's a risk. So the question is, how much risk is a community, at what cost, willing to take? So you know, I'm hearing, you know, the concern from Orleans now with some of the residents, although this is a wonderful option, if you can just put some oysters in the water and make it better, that's great, but you have to sustain that project, and there's a cost to that, and there's a risk to that. So that gets into, down the line, when we develop plans, the selectmen, or the approving authority, they have to take that into account as responsible for your finances here. You know, what's the best path? I thought you did a great job.
Oh, good. My feelings on the matter is that it's more of it might be more useful as not the primary way to reduce nitrogen or phosphorus in phosphate. Which one? In the estuary. Just one of those, like, well, this would be nice to push it, like, over the, like, just give it that little extra push to be effective, or just get that little bit extra that was there, but not to, like, put the whole weight of whether or not we accomplish the goal on a bed of oysters, which I kind of can't believe I'm saying, because I'm like, yeah, let's do it the natural way. But, I mean, if you lose all of your
There's also-
oysters, I also think that it should be more source-based, because, I mean, you don't have to clean something up if you don't get it dirty, you know? And so I don't think oysters would be able to handle the continued and increased use that we might see moving forward as more people move to Eastham, or we have more developments, or they continue to use fertilizers that promote this problem. Also, this is still looking at nitrogen and phosphate and doesn't really handle the, like, contaminants of emerging concern. So again, looking at source issues, looking at systems that will also take care of some of those things that we know are going to be an issue down the line that I don't know if oysters can accommodate.
Yeah, well, I think where our consultants are going, to the extent they're looking at oysters, is as an ancillary, certainly not as a primary.
That's exactly
Yeah.
what Suzanne was
And
saying.
in addition, I think, and it's one of the reasons for looking at what we can do, is we already have oysters in Salt Pond.
Yeah.
So, to some extent, the nitrogen numbers that we have reflect the existence of oysters. And so it's how many more oysters can we put in there that will bring those numbers down? So there's an awful lot that's going to be looked at in terms of trying to just decide how it goes. But,
Oh, so Salt Pond does have oysters?
Well, we stock it too.
yeah,
Oh,
they get seeded. Apparently, there's an annual event. I don't know when it is.
Very popular.
Oh, and then the other thing that is just like a point of, oysters have, like it's not lifespan, I forget what the word was, but, because quahogs are also an option, but quahogs have a 2 to 3 year season, and oysters are 18 months, just to give you, because do we seed for quahogs?
That's what we seed quahogs right now.
Yeah.
But we have to have, that will be one of the recommendations of next steps in our wastewater plan for the targeted watershed, was doing a shellfish feasibility study. So what, some of the points that you've raised would be looking specifically at Salt Pond. What are all of those things, costs, risks, benefits? What are the recreational problems? Obviously, there are other uses there. We're also dealing with the Cape Cod National Seashore. So there are a lot of components, and the first part would be just like at Schoolhouse Minister's Pond, you have to identify what your options are. And in some habitats, again, I hate talking about this because I'm so not educated. You know, a fisherman could tell you exactly, you know, what the conditions are for quahog versus oysters versus razor clam versus whatever, you know, and I don't have a clue, to be honest. So that's why we're connecting with Sia Karpelis. She has done work for Falmouth, Orleans, other communities. And I think it is a nice thing, because if we hire the same person who's already worked in the adjoining town and their project is well underway, we gain a lot
Yeah.
of information.
Yes.
And so that's going to be one of the next steps moving forward, to see, is it feasible? And
Yep.
maybe it is, maybe it isn't, and you have to weigh all those things.
And what might be nice also, because there's been a few other places, I think the Chesapeake Bay may have looked into this as well, and then, but it could be an opportunity to just like provide a lot of information to science in general for Cape Cod and wastewater management and alternative solutions and so on and so forth. So I'm assuming it'll all be well documented, but maybe at some point someone could like run through and make a report and publish it or something
On the
fancy like that.
Chesapeake Bay?
No, I
Oh,
mean for
'cause I was
Cape,
gonna
for,
say,
no,
there are
no, no.
reports ad infinitum on the
Yeah,
Chesapeake
no, oh
Bay.
God, yeah. I was hesitant to go down that rabbit hole, but
Yeah, I have attended the meetings in Orleans where the subcommittee has talked about the oyster project in Lonnie's Pond. And that was a pilot, and it's now starting its second year. And it did get funding in Orleans in May for this second year. It is very well sampled in the sense that they had SMAS in there collecting water samples all through last summer. And they did really get firm information as to a decrease in the nitrate in the water. Now, down there, they had floating bags, and they had to turn the bags over, I guess, every week or every 2 weeks, and I think they're talking about something like 200 bags. And they also had to go into the bags and pull the oysters out because they were growing to the extent that they would burst the bag. I mean, I didn't really understand it, but Suzanne touched it on a little bit. Young oysters go through an incredible growth spurt, such that, and that's an opportunity to take advantage of it. In other words, you put in the little seed that's about the size of my fingernail, but in the next 18 months, the thing grows out to 2 inches, and it puts a heck of a lot of water through its system in doing so. So, to me, I think that the Orleans folks, at the end of next year, would have the 3-year kind of firm information on how their pilot turned out. If it turns out well, then I think the regulators might be looking at Eastham and saying, well, gee whiz, you've got evidence that Project One Town Away was successful. So the burden is on Eastham to, if they don't do it, give a good reason, or if they do it, they essentially they're getting pushed in that direction. At least that's the way I would.
I'm gonna interrupt you there
Don't
just
think
because,
so.
I disagree with, there's not a regulatory agency like EPA, DEP, and the Cape Cod Commission doesn't regulate us in this regard, that will tell us how to do what needs to be done. There might be a bottom line is, you have to reach a total maximum daily load in a particular water body. That's the regulatory limit, but they don't no one's gonna tell the town of Eastham how to achieve that end. That will be a decision that will be made by the town.
Yeah,
So
Jane-
whether
Jane, I
it's
don't-
successful or not, we would not be required to follow a particular protocol, because I'm just saying that it's
well.
not
yeah,
going to be
yeah,
dictated
no,
to us.
I agree with you, Jane, but let's see, I could be wrong on this, but in my experience with working in environmental regulators, if the operator of a situation is non-compliant, and there really are pretty well-tested or straightforward things that organization could be doing that, all their peers in the communities is stepping up and doing, then you do get to the point from the regulator's standpoint is that these people just aren't trying to help themselves. They are not seizing a reasonable way to go forward and make things better for everybody. So, but I guess what I'm saying is, though, the Lonnie's Pond project is probably going to come out being the most well-documented study on the Cape when they finish it up. There's no other place on the Cape that they have done the quality of science that they have done with Lonnie's Pond. Okay. That, to me, should not, push us into something we don't want to do, but it's sitting there as an example of an aquaculture project that went well and was cheaper than building more wastewater treatment plant.
Perhaps. I think from my last reading of the Lonnie's Pond stuff, that wasn't so clear. But I think Jane's point is valid, that, the matrix is set out there with a variety of things you can do. And if there is one message that I hear repeatedly whenever I go to those one-day summits or whatever, one Cape summits, okay, and other things that the Cape Cod Commission puts out, is they don't intend to tell towns which particular technologies are best suited for the town for a variety of reasons. So obviously, if we were doing absolutely nothing, it would be a different situation. They might come in and say, you got to do something. But I think if after analysis, we decide that oysters in Salt Pond or quahogs in Salt Pond, additional ones, are not helpful and don't give us enough return to justify what it takes to put them in, but we're going to do X, Y, and Z, that they're happy with that. All they want, from my standpoint, is they want to know that at the end of 5 years, from 2015, that they will be able to say that each town has completed a plan.
Yep.
That's what they want, because that's what they got to, will EPA even care at that point? We don't know. But that's what they got to push back to EPA, that towns have got a plan. CLF, Conservation Law Foundation, continues to show up at these One Cape meetings, and they are very plain that they are watching. He was rather plain this last time that he really is not impressed with the level of progress from his standpoint, and so that they will intend to continue watching. So, the thing is that they want the towns to move forward. They realize there are different directions, different, what people will do about oysters may also, if you were at a town meeting and you had to vote on a plan and maybe you thought oysters were a waste of time, that could affect your vote. So it's all going to have to, reflect individual towns, individual town personalities, what they're willing to spend their money for. So
in this conversation, I feel like oysters could be useful for Eastham in you don't have to, I don't see oysters being useful in and we're going to have oyster beds for this purpose for 10 years. Maybe a 3-year plan for having oysters would help just bring the estuary back into balance while we worked on source origins of it. Because just it's going to take a while for the ecosystem to balance itself out after, because the damage is already there, you know? So like, I know putting less nitrogen into the system is going to help, but what do you do with the already degraded system? So it could be really useful in just like, bam, and like we have this 3-year plan and the oysters will do whatever they do in their 3-year plan, but it's still going to do something, and you still didn't have to like somehow pump out all of the water or deal with this, that, or the other thing. But that was just an idea that I thought of while we were discussing this.
Yeah, there is one other idea that I've heard at the Lonnie's Pond meeting. Okay, the oysters are in floating bags.
Yeah.
And they produce a waste, and it's apparently sort of a little pellet. It's called pseudofeces, okay, and it represents the solid that they've taken in their bringing the water in. But they're saying that the feces will settle to the bottom, and because of its nature and because of the sort of the nature of that immediate surface in a place like Lonnie's Pond, which basically they're saying is a lot of black muddish material, or organic and sand, all right, that the feces can be a stimulant to further biological activity that causes nitrate in the black ugly material to turn into nitrogen gas in the water and then exchange at the surface and go into the end. And they were saying, well, it's something like if you're getting a 1.0 gain from merely having the water go through the oyster, there's another 0.7 gain in reducing nitrogen that's going on because of these little pseudofeces. And now, the pseudofeces understanding is not that firm in the consultant's minds as to how it worked. They see it there, it shows up in the data, but it's just kind of maybe a freebie that may or may not be there as well, and I just point that out.
Maybe we should move on to these draft minutes.
I think
They're
so.
from May. I sent them to everybody. Oh, no, I guess I didn't send them. I distributed them to everybody who was here in June, even though we didn't meet in June. So Suzanne, they just gave a copy to Suzanne, so.
Yeah, I don't have any comments. You need to add a B in front of Suzanne's Ryan name down there, a third of the way through, but that's the only thing I saw.
A B in front of, Brian agreed to present unselfish?
Suggested, unless we have Orion.
There somewhere.
Well, the fourth paragraph down says Brian.
There you go,
Oh, down at the bottom, okay.
right there. And was there documents to be distributed prior to the meeting? You got to be listed? I don't.
I haven't gone back since. I mean, I will check this before it's filed.
Okay. So, yeah, so I have no comments further on it.
Somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a
or-
motion, we accept the minutes.
I'll second that.
A vote? I'm not certain who's running this meeting. A vote? Somebody vote?
Oh, yeah.
People all said vote, vote.
All those in favor, please say
I'm
aye.
abstaining because I didn't attend the meeting.
Okay, fine.
Oh,
This
one,
is for
two,
May.
Yeah,
three,
May.
Yeah.
And there's no one for June because we didn't have a meeting.
5, looks like
You didn't know that?
5-0.
I wasn't able to attend.
I know, we couldn't get more.
We didn't
Oh,
have,
There were
okay.
4 of us.
okay. I'm embarrassed to say I realize
Lou was there, but
I have a
she,
problem about the August meeting, August 8th. Would there be any amenability to changing the date of that meeting, going back a week, or is that a problem for people? If we went back to August 15th?
I mean, pushing it out a week,
Yeah,
no problem.
no problem for you. You want to check your calendar?
I
I'm
would
good.
have to,
I'm
yeah, and I
good.
don't care. s-
I could do August 15th.
Do you know if you can, Mary Lou?
I'm sorry,
August 15th instead of August 8th?
I'll make that note. I've already got it on my calendar, so it was here.
You think it's okay? You think the
Yes,
15th is
The
okay?
15th will be okay with me as long as I
How about you, Suzanne?
change.
Sure. I don't know what my August looks like yet, but the probability of me being able to make it is about the same, whether it's the 8th or 15th.
So it's basically only you, Scott.
Yeah, I have a calendar, but not with me. Yeah, I'm old-fashioned, it's paper.
I also have a contractor calendar, so
All right, so let's plan on the 15th. I'll send out an email after the meeting to remind people,
okay.
okay? We'll make it August 15th.
So can someone make a motion to adjourn, or did you want to discuss more
Well,
things?
somebody does have to make a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Needs a second?
Second?
Aye, everybody say aye.
Yeah, wait, I'm, who,
Not opposed, so.
Anybody opposed?